The views and opinions of the host and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I represent Bahamian people. I from Nassau, Bahamas, big up Bintan, bro. Boy, I from Bintan, bro. Right between West and Augusta, where them two roads meet, they call it Wilkinson Street. Manners and respect was like a sign blank check. It seems the ones that come in after quick to disrespect. You see, this life in the ghetto never easy. So many hungry days break till it grieve me. But I doing the best I can, trying to turn my dollar to a hunt. I represent the ghetto people. I from Nassau, Bahamas, big up Bintan, bro. Boy, I from Bintan, bro.
Good evening, Bahamas, and welcome to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I'm your host, Valentino, host of the talk show Inside the Inner City that premieres every Friday at 6:30 to 8 p.m. Telephone numbers tonight are 323-6232, 325-4316. 325-4259, and you can text us powered by BTC at 422-GR96. And you can look us up on Cable Bahamas 969 and listen in. And like I said, it's going to be a very wonderful show today. I have a wonderful guest in studios. We call him Bernard Henfield, and everyone knows that he's contributed greatly to the development of the country. And he also always fights for the advocate of the less fortunate in the country, and he's still doing great works. So today, our topic is going to be, we're going to call it One Evening, and it's going to be called, What's the Law with This? It's concerning rights of tenants, rights of landlord owners. We want to have this discussion because throughout the inner city in Iran, Nassau, New Providence, there are many cases before the courts of tenants abusing their powers and also landlord abusing their powers. So we have a professional in studios today to have this discussion on Guardian Radio 96.9. So hang in for a few seconds while I just give our community special thanks to some wonderful persons who assisting me as a private partner with the development of Grandstand. And if anyone is listening, I want to give a special shout out to Bahamas Waste that's been assisting me for the last 10 years in the Grandstand community with providing us with dumpsters to beautify and clean up the area. It's been a very, very hard and tough task because, we keep on cleaning up and people keep on dumping in the community. But, we're still continuing it, and now it's reaching them where they're starting to get along with the program and start to themselves to clean up themselves and to make sure that when we clean down something again, it stays clean. And I'm glad that our pride again is being regained back in the Grandstand community. I want to give a special thanks to the Bahamas Waste and my good friend Franny. I want to give a special thanks to Keith Sands of Rotary International. Rotary has been assisting me the last 10 years, and that's how I can make the connection with Bahamas Waste. They are pledged to assist me in many of the small projects that I'm doing in the Grandstand community. And in the coming months, we continue to clean up. We also have Gandhi Pinder coming to the community to help with the Dr. Martin Luther King Junior site that has been established in the Grandstand community in the year of 2015, 2016, and you're going to see great work so that as we use this as a beacon to attract tourists that comes in our community, that will be a historical landmark with the many projects that we're doing to better equip the community with education, providing small businesses, and changing the mindset of our youths in the inner city community, both male and female. So it's going to be great progress in the Grandstand community. I want to say thanks to Bahamas Waste again, Franny, and to Yanni Pinder, and many other sponsors. I have my special guest in studios today, Mr. Bernard Henfield. We call him Senator, but he's former Senator now, but we call him Senator with due respect that he has a tree of greatness, from someone to come off the the inner city community is to achieve greatness and instill climate. So I want to give a shout out to Mr. Hanfield, who's in studios today, to give us some valuable information concerning, again, landlords and those who are renting from landlords. Okay.
Good evening, Bahamas, and as many of you would know, I am a father, so I have to say hello to my two daughters, Rienne and Raina Henfield, and my wife, Vidya. Always a pleasure to be here with Mr. Brown, a.k.a. Scrooge.
My
My Scrooge on this radio, but Senator, her name is Nato.
Okay.
All right, so Nato is here.
Nato.
Nato, I am here to assist tonight in speaking to the landlord and tenant relationship. So feel free throughout the evening if you have any questions to call in. Let me clarify any scenarios or situations you're dealing with.
Wow. That's awesome. You know, Mr. Anfield, in the Bahamas in the last, say, 50 years, you know, many of us who were looking for better opportunities started to invest in building apartments, right? That's for us to have a living. So we work hard, and then we say we'd buy a property, and then we would build some apartments to rent out to, I guess it was for the tourists, but being people who live here or people who come in to visit as either, what we call it, Airbnb.
Airbnb.
It was designed a long time for that. And over the course of the deterioration of the, how I should say, the communities, you know, change, and then we start to, how I should say, break down and start to rent out to foreigners and also behemoth. But there's been of rights being violated. And some of those rights, we're talking about landlords illegally entering the tenants who they renting out, helping keys and go in without authorization from those who are renting. And then we have tenants who live in the landlord's house who absolutely destroy the landlord house. So it goes two ways. Yes. So where do you think we should start from today, Mr. Enfield?
I think we need to begin today, and again, we don't have much time,
Okay.
so we need to begin with the misconceptions and the basics.
Okay, let's go.
And some of the common misconceptions by tenants is that I can have however many people staying in my place because I pay in rent.
Right, so
They rented a one-bedroom on efficiency, and they have 6, 7, 8, 9 people staying inside the place.
Wow.
And that's a misconception that you can have as many people as you want.
Wow.
Another misconception I find that tenants have is that anything that is broken inside this place, that's for the landlord to fix and not me. So you move into a place, the landlord gave you something in good condition, but you break the toilet, you break the faucet, you break the fan, and they have the view that that's another misconception. I'm only going to give 4 of them. Is
Go
that
ahead.
if something isn't repaired, when I tell the landlord it's broken, I don't need to pay him no rent. A lot of tenants are of that view. And finally, there's the most popular one: I'll pay rent when I get it. Stop running me down for this little money.
Well, seems like this seems like I hear this every week. I hear these same arguments that you were stating right now. So a lot of these come before the courts.
Yeah, a lot. And then even for landlords have a lot of misconceptions. So landlords who are listening, a lot of landlords are of the view that they can change the locks because somebody didn't pay. So rent is due on the first of the month, and the landlord goes and changes the lock on the second. You have no authority whatsoever. That's a misconception. Another misconception landlords have is that I can keep a key to a place that I've rented to you. You have no right to keep a key to the place you've rented to me. Third, I don't have to return. Go ahead.
Say it again now.
Landlords are of the view in this country that when they rent you an apartment on efficiency, they have a right to the place.
But I normally see sometimes when there's an argument, the landlord sometimes go inside the tenant's apartment without authorization.
So he just break in.
That's breaking in.
He just break in.
You're not allowed
That
to
is
have no
breaking
key as
in.
long as that is rented.
And breaking doesn't mean he break down the door, broke through the window. He entered a place illegally without permission to remove or to do something that he had no authority or no right to.
He or she.
He or she. I think another misconception we see a lot is that landlords of the view that they don't have to return the security deposit because there was some damage. So you've collected someone's last month's rent and security deposit of $500, and there's a bathroom toilet that's broken. that literally costs about $150 or $200 to repair, but the landlord says, I'm keeping the full $500 to factor in my time for going to pick up the toilet and have the toilet put in. That's also nonsense. And then there's this belief by landlords that I can raise rent whenever I want and to whatever I want. So those are just some of the misconceptions to get us started today.
Man, that's a heap.
Yeah, we have a lot to go through today, but that's
Oh, you should start off. I don't know where to start from, but let's just start off.
So let's jump into what are some of the basics. For those of you listening, we're learning about landlord and tenant relationship, and I call it relationship. All right, you are in a relationship, a landlord and tenant relationship, which then carries certain obligations and responsibilities for each party. And unfortunately, having been to Parliament, we in Parliament and a disservice to this area of the law, there isn't much in the acts of Parliament when it comes to the landlord and tenant relationship. So what has to happen for us is we fall back and rely on common law / the cases.
Yes.
The cases to shape the business relationship of leases. And as a basic, a lease, when you hear persons in the country say, I have a lease, I don't have a rental agreement. No, you have a rental agreement, which is called a lease. You have a lease that is called a rental agreement. The lease and rental agreement are terms that are used interchangeably. All right? So someone saying, I want you to sign a lease, and someone else says it's a rental agreement, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's a contract in its simplest form that is for you, the tenant, to occupy and have use of a specific premise for a certain period of time for a certain amount of money that is due on a certain / specified date. All right? Whether you call it a lease or a rental agreement, it's the same thing. Now, the lessor is the landlord, and the lessee is the tenant. Most people just call it landlord and tenant. But if you have a lease, you may see it in the lease saying the lessor hereby grants unto the landlord XYZ the demise of the property. All right? Don't get caught up in the terminology, but for the fact that understand that you are renting a place, and whether this agreement says lease or rental agreement, that is the contract that determines what are the rights, obligations, and specifics. So if I jump then to the lease types / rental agreement types, you have the fixed term lease or rental agreement where someone says, I'm renting my place to you from June 1st, 2023 to June 1st, 2024. 1 year.
1 year.
What then happens is that lease should say, or the rental agreement should say, that at the end of the lease, there's an option to renew. But if we fail to execute a new lease for another year, then you become a month-to-month tenant.
Okay.
So you've gone from having locked in yourself to this agreement for 1 year
To 1 month now.
1 month rentals.
Because you didn't live up to obligations.
Right. So you can continue paying month to month if y'all don't sign a lease. Then you have the norm, which is the month to month. It says rent is paid every month on XYZ. It's a simply month to month rental. Then you will also have what has become very popular these days. It's weekly rentals. Persons asking to rent by the week. All right. Which they find to be much cheaper if they're looking for an efficiency, for instance. But once you're talking about like a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartment, most of those are rented on a month to month basis or a yearly lease. All right. Every lease should state and express certain things for you. It should express and state who the landlord and tenant are on that document. It should state what is being rented, whether it's a 1 bedroom, a 2 bedroom, an efficiency, a shop space, etc., a warehouse. It should state how much the rent is and when the rent is due. Go ahead, Scrooge.
I'm glad you. I was just writing it just now. I was just inquiring. Just say if a person was looking to say they wanted to pay a specific amount of rent every month, right? Is a one efficiency or etc. Is there a specific price range that the landlord can charge, or is there a range like across the country? Like, just say, is there a law or some kind of rent regulation that's saying that if you rent an apartment, what the landlord can charge?
Okay, so let me take a step back.
Okay.
When persons approach a landlord to rent their premises, the landlord, this is now a private contract between you and the landlord. So you're the landlord. You are of the view that you are so nice that it is worth $1,000 a month.
Okay, it's up to you.
It's up to you. You said this is worth $1,000 a month.
Okay.
So you've rented it to me. I've signed this lease / rental agreement to pay you $1,000 for this place every month
Okay.
because this is going to be a 2-bedroom gated complex with
Okay.
air conditioned. It's
Yes, sir.
semi-furnished. I'm going to walk in there. You already have the fridge, stove in
Okay.
there.
It's furnished and
You
everything.
have a front room set. All you
Okay.
really need to do is bring my clothes and probably a bed.
Okay.
Or even the bed's in there. So this is worth $1,000 to you. I
Okay.
accept that that's the worth. I'll pay you $1,000 a
Alright.
month to have this. When the law kicks in as far as the rental issue is when you decide, we have a yearly lease now, Scrooge.
Okay.
Starting June 1st.
Okay.
And then you come to me on July 7th and realize, boy, Nassau jumping. Everybody home for this independence. I could make more money. So you come to me and say, hey, come next week, the rent going up to $2,000. You can't do that because we already have a rental agreement,
Okay.
a contract that says for the next year, I am only to pay you $1,000.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So to jump back then into what your lease should express it is who the landlord and tenants are, what is being rented, how much the rent is, and when the rent is due, the notice requirements for vacating, and that's whether the tenant wants to leave or the landlord wants you out. That there's 60 days, 30 days, or 90 days.
Let's get it again, because I saw some row with landlords, and they insist that those persons immediately leave with the house the very next day or week.
Right.
That's against.
That's an illegal eviction.
That's illegal
That's
eviction.
an illegal eviction. So if it is that you've rented, I'm going to use you and I as an example.
Yes, sir.
You're the landlord for the rest of this show.
Okay.
And I've rented a place. I come home, I park my car in the yard to run inside and get something. I'm blasting the latest Jack Cure or Bungee, whatever it is. And you come and say, hey, turn the stupidness down. And I say, Pops, go back inside. Calm yourself. And I go inside, the music blasting. You get mad. So you say, you know what? I want you out of my place tomorrow. I ain't going nowhere tomorrow because I have a month-to-month lease. Today is the 19th of the month, and my rent is due in the 1st of every month.
Mm-hmm.
You can give me notice to move in 1 month, and 1 month doesn't mean on the 19th of next month. If my rent is due in the 1st of June, you can give me notice anytime before the 1st of June to move out by the 1st of July.
Okay.
So you telling me listen to this genre of music or you don't like this, the way I hang my clothes on the line, I don't have to move tomorrow.
Wow.
All right, you go to the police station if you want. You go to court. When you go to court, you appear before the magistrate. Let the magistrate know I have a month-to-month lease. He told me last week on Friday the 19th, he wanted me out Saturday. I didn't move, and here I am today with my lease agreement to show you my rent is current and it's paid on the 1st of every month. So that most he could be doing is giving me notice to move by July 1st.
Okay.
All right. And another thing that your rental agreement should state is that what the payments are for first, last month, and security deposit. Whatever you do, whether you are the landlord or tenant listening, please keep a copy of your rental agreement. When you move in, the landlord is happy to have you, and the tenant is happy to have a place. Everybody in their good spirits and good mood then. But you will fall out as with any relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, parents, and child. You will have difficult times. And when you fall out, you need to be able to look at the rental agreement to see what were the obligations and responsibilities of each party when this relationship is falling apart. So I'm going to take all of you now to the landlord's rights. There are certain rights you have as a landlord. And one of those rights is to be paid your rent in full, on time, and depending on your lease/rental agreement, with late fees if it's not paid in full and on time.
You can
contract.
on the contract.
You can't come 3 months later and tell somebody.
Let's get it clear.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand what you're
That
saying.
needs to
now.
be in that-
That has to be in the contract.
That has to be in the contract.
Late fee has to be when we sign for this 1 month.
Right.
Thingum.
You can't come after the fact 6 months and say, man, you've been late with rent for 4 months of the 6th. I charge you a late fee. No, you cannot charge a
And
late
we have
fee.
many people do that in the
We've
country.
never agreed to it. Our entire agreement is in writing and it's not in there.
So that's why where many tenants themselves get an argument with the landlords.
Right. And then they find themselves accumulating this late fee at $50 or $75 over file, saying you owe $300
Oh,
from behind.
because they say, oh, this is the truth. Because I hear these kind of stuff, and people say, but how I get this, and I just did this and that, and then they end up, but I paid the late fee and that.
Yeah, and that's what's been happening because a lot of persons, like you've just pointed out, have a landlord who's of the view that I can just add things to a relationship or our agreement.
So make
that
sure-
it's not in writing. Make sure keep your agreement.
Make sure and keep your
And
agreement.
read your agreement
And
before
read
you
your
sign
agreement
the
before you
agreement.
sign it.
All right. So back to the landlord's rights. Yes, he's entitled or she's entitled to have her rent paid in full on time. And again, depending on that agreement, if there's a late fee, they're entitled to a late fee. If it's not in the agreement, they cannot charge you a late fee. But the landlord has a right to have their property kept in good condition. When we opened the show, Scrooge spoke about a land. Many persons in this country have made sacrifices to get a rental place to put on rent. Rent is a second source of income for some people,
Yes.
and for some people at their age, is their only source
Retirement
of
money.
income.
That's the retirement money.
Right? And when you factor in that this person's relying on this money they collect in rent to pay their mortgage, to pay their bills,
Yes.
to buy grocery, to pay for their medical bills and medicine, and then you decide you can pay it when you want, you're going to have a problem. The landlord's entitled to rent in full, but then we have a bigger issue when you decide to break up the landlord place.
Yes.
And you've only paid a $500 security deposit, but the landlord has a right to have his place kept in good condition. Hence, you'll hear persons in there or see persons in their agreement asking for an inspection every 3
That's
months or
maintenance,
6 months
coming and
to
looking.
making sure you're not damaging their place. And we're going to touch on when they can do that in a moment.
Go ahead.
But moving forward, the landlord has the right to evict you with reasonable notice. The landlord does not need a reason to evict you. So you could be current in rent, and the landlord could still decide this relationship is over.
You talk about the music, so yes,
Yeah.
I played some music, so I guess it's over.
It's over. But the only thing is the landlord must give you reasonable notice.
Reasonable notice means he have to give you ahead of time.
Yes.
And then he
if
have to give you time.
Right. And if it's a month that you pay your rent because you are a month-to-month tenant,
Yes.
then you are entitled to 1 month's notice.
And why is that? Because
You've already paid the rent.
and you need time to go. Oh yeah, that's true.
You've paid it. When you moved in, you paid first and last
okay,
month's rent.
okay,
So you
okay.
can't put me out when I've already paid you to be here for another month.
Okay.
All
And
right,
that
so-
give me time to go and look for next place of residency.
And let's say the landlord were to bring you, well, I'm the tenant in this scenario and you're the landlord. Let's say you evicting me, but you know Henfield has 2 daughters and an elderly mother with him in this 2 or 3 bedroom place. And one of them is bedridden, and I have a home-based business from here, etc.
This is real life we're talking about.
Right, this is what people are going through every day.
Yeah.
But you're giving me 1 month's notice. Realistically, I got to find some place that is adequate to put somebody who's bedridden. I have children who are in school in this community. So when I come to court, I say to the magistrate, I have no problem vacating. He's asked me to move by July 1st. School will be closed, correct. I endeavor to move by July 1st. If I run behind and I can't move, then on July 1st, I will pay him rent for 1 more month, and that'll be my final month.
Okay.
The judge may approve it, or the judge may say in the circumstances,
Judge's
no,
discretion.
It's at the judge's discretion.
Wow,
So the judge may say,
awesome.
no, I'm going to give you until the 15th of July. But for the 2 weeks that you're there and your rent was $1,000 a month, you have to pay him $500 for July. All right?
Wow.
And then the landlord has a right to recover any legal costs incurred for pursuing an eviction or pursuing the collection of the arrears of rent or damages that you've done. So not because the tenant paid a security deposit of $500 that they feel, well, when I'm moving, you keep the security deposit, I'm gone. No, the damages came to $2,000. So the landlord has a right to come and sue you for the $1,500 difference.
So that's the toilet bowl, that's the face bowl, and that's the sheetrock.
Right. But one of the things I want to touch on, though, Scrooge, is
Go ahead.
that the landlord only has the right to repair it to the quality that it was before. So if you had one of those screw-out windows when I moved in, and that's damaged, you don't get to go now get hurricane impact window. You can't upgrade your place.
Plus, we are some really stink people.
Yeah,
You know,
can't do
we
that.
are stink. We had stink on both ends. I mean, I'm talking with the tenants and I'm talking with the landlords.
it,
We stink. We stink. We know how to really, really mess up one another when it comes to these things.
True, facts.
Yes.
So let's jump now to the responsibilities of the landlord. We talk about what the landlord has a right to,
Yes,
what
sir.
he's entitled to, but the landlord has responsibilities in this relationship. And one of those responsibilities is to ensure something in law that's called habitability.
Habitability
Meaning that when I
is
come
livable.
it is livable. It is suitable for someone to live in, which then means you can't have sewage blockage. The yard and place can't be flooded.
But we have these problems now as we speak now with people who are ratting out to people right now.
Right, and the sewage backed up.
And it's backed up right
And
now.
they flush the toilet and coming up in the tub.
All abandoned cars in the yard. The
Yes,
yard is not kept
rodent
properly.
infested,
Rotten and
termites,
roaches.
yes. No screens in the windows,
No
so
screen-
mosquitoes in and out the place.
All these are required. Oh,
These are
man.
requirements. These are basics.
Wow.
So the place must be habitable at the time the landlord rents it to you. So when you rent to me, Scrooge, which I expect, and the law requires that it has running water to the place, light to the place. That meaning not that you've paying the light bill, that the power lines are in place. I just need to go to BS line should be to the place. I just need to go to water and sewage and turn it on. I shouldn't be here and I gotta go pay to put a meter into your place to get water. And that's happening.
Mr. Hanfield, this is what is happening
I
in
know.
the country.
I see it every day.
That's why I say let's have this conversation because just in the city and we want to talk about these things because these are affecting people today. You know, we had the COVID-19 and I heard when the former Prime Minister stated that, you know, the landlord needs to be show compassion.
Right.
And he's talking about these, but all these things came up around at the same time, Mr. Enfield.
Yes, people who were living in a place where the toilet couldn't flush because the landlord ain't popped the cesspit in 2-3 years. People who were living in a place where the water's being off because the landlord ain't paid the water bill, but yet I'm paying my rent.
And a yard full of rat and
derelict vehicles.
Vehicles.
Man. The rat waking you up at night telling you move over. So these are things people are enduring that they don't have to because the landlord has an obligation to provide you a place that is habitable.
Yes.
The landlord also has an obligation or responsibility to give the client exclusive control. Your landlord should not have a key to your place.
Mr. Enfield, you read this can't be for real because there's some country who have key to their apartment and they when they get mad with their tenants, they go in the people place. And the people say you can't do that, and they say I don't give a crap, and this is my and this and that, and this and this and this.
Yes, and tenants stand down and let it happen because they don't know the law. You have exclusive access to your place when you rent it. Exclusive.
But if I have a bedridden family member, and then I could probably have a young daughter in the place,
Right.
and then you just come open the door, and
Or
then
you out to work, your woman
and out to
home,
work,
the landlord is feeling
and then I get this call that you won't believe who here, the landlord in the place, and he tell me, and you know this causes problem.
Yes. So the landlord has a responsibility that the landlord has to make sure that you have exclusive access.
Yes, sir.
Nobody should have access to the place. Then the landlord has that responsibility of not interfering with you. And by not interfering with you, there's something we call in law peaceful enjoyment.
Enjoyment.
The tenant should have peaceful enjoyment. The landlord should ensure the tenant has peaceful enjoyment, meaning no harassment.
So
Park the car.
I live
back.
next door. I used to landlord at them next door, and you was the person who rent. And you're here, so I play my music. I used to landlord. I don't want that turn that too far. Got Biggie Small down.
We can come to you as a friend in a minute, though. but realistically,
Go ahead. Sorry.
The truth is that a tenant has a place rented from the landlord who lives on property, and the landlord is harassing the tenant, disconnecting utilities because the tenant is late with the rent, or the tenant didn't do something the landlord said do, or the landlord is threatening the tenant. I can put you out, I can put you out if you don't do X, Y, Z. I've seen cases come to court where the landlord is telling the woman, give me a little something.
What?
Give me a little something. That's
Just to make up for the rent. Yeah, to make up for the rent.
Something we can let this month pass. These are things people are dealing with on a daily basis. And when they don't give up, the landlord brings them to court for an eviction. Again, an illegal eviction because you sought to harass somebody, to sexually harass somebody for rent. That's a crime.
Wow.
All right, so
that's going on.
the landlord has a responsibility not to do it, to ensure that you have peaceful enjoyment. And then to address you in a timely manner. So you can't tell your landlord, listen, it's May, hurricane season coming, this leak roofing. I'm saying leak roofing.
Yeah.
The roof is leaking. It's May, hurricane is coming, please repair the roof. And the landlord says, listen, I can get to that next year. Oh, no. You have an obligation to get to this as quick as possible.
To make it, what do you say, habitable.
Right. You have an obligation. I can't live in some place that's not habitable.
Yeah.
And you have an obligation to rectify
The situation.
that thing that's responsible for the landlord. Now, when I say, and I'm going to clarify this, the landlord rented you a place with screens in the windows. A little bad child you got done bustled every screen in the landlord's place.
Yeah,
so mosquitoes coming through and dengue fever's around again. And you tell the landlord need to fix the screen. No, the landlord rented you a place with the screen fixed. That's for you to fix.
Okay, I like that. I like that. It's fair. It's fair.
Because if you moved out today, the landlord will be deducting that from your security deposit.
That's right.
That's right. But if you tell me the roof is leaking, the walls are cracked, that's for the landlord.
That's for the landlord.
The sewage is coming up. That's for the landlord. So you call the landlord at 5 o'clock. Say, Mr. Brown, I came home and the sewage is in my tub. The toilet is overflowing. Please call the cesspit truck. And the landlord say, no, you call it. No, sir. This is your place. This is on you. This is not habitable. You need to come this way.
Mr. Hanfield, I'm glad you came on the show today because every one of the points you're knocking on is happening as we speak right now in this country.
Yes, yeah.
And it's good that we have this conversation because it's been a long time, and we need to get the information out there for those who are out there. You know, as tenants, you be respectful when you rent from the landlords. And landlords, you got to be respectful to the tenants. You know, and how you communicate and how you talk to one another. You know, and we have to have a heart, but we can't take advantage of one another.
Yeah.
You know, and I think this is a good conversation we're having right now.
And one more thing that,
Go ahead, sir.
as far as a responsibility for the landlord, it is to return people's security deposit in 30 days, not when you feel like it or when you have it. So if the tenant moves out on the 1st of July, because you told me on the 19th,
on the 1st of July.
you didn't want me in your place no more, I must move by July 1st. I now move on July 1st. My security deposit I paid you when I moved in last year, by law, you need to return to me.
I ain't giving it to you.
Within 30 days.
Law, I ain't giving it to
So
you.
you come in 30 days and you realize, because we did the inspection, I took my pictures, you took your pictures, there was nothing
damaged.
I cleaned the place
Okay.
before I go on.
Okay.
You check the toilet, you check
Okay.
the shower, you check the closet doors, everything's in good condition. 30 days later, I still haven't received my security deposit. The tenant could sue you because you have an obligation to return security deposit in 30 days less anything that you needed to repair. If nothing to repair, return my money in 30 days.
You're getting some valuable information from Bernard Enfield, trained professional. Later on in the show, we're going to give out his number, his contacts for any one of you out there who will be going through these similar problems. You can contact him and see best how he could assist you to rectify your situation. You know, because he's given some very valuable information concerning tenants and landlord, and it gives you a perspective on what you can do to actually stand up for what's going on wrong in your life, you know, and there's a lot of hardship going on now in the country, and we are hurting one another, and it's good that we have this conversation so that you can at least say, you know what, I listened to a very positive show, and at least I know what to say to my landlord, and landlord knows what to say to the tenant, and I think this is a very good, very, very good conversation. Go ahead, Mr. Enfield.
So we've discussed the misconceptions so far for landlord and tenants. We've discussed what is a lease. We've discussed the landlord's rights and responsibilities. Having heard the landlord's responsibilities and rights, then it should then give to you as the tenants listening a glimpse of what is your rights and
Yes.
responsibilities. So when we talk about the rights of a tenant, obviously you have a right to peaceful enjoyment. The landlord should not be harassing you, threatening you, disconnecting any utilities. The landlord cannot be changing your locks, cannot be disconnecting utilities, cannot be harassing you, coming to your door late at night, coming on your job, etc., okay, demanding rent. You are entitled to peaceful enjoyment. You are entitled to exclusive access. If you've moved into a place, and I had a client call me recently and said she just rented a place, paid the first last security deposit. When she got the keys, the landlord took the key off a bunch of 3 keys and gave her one and kept 2. And she said, no, I need the 3 of them. The landlord said, no, I always keep a copy of a key in case somebody gets locked out. When she called me from her car, I said, listen, don't even argue with him. Call a locksmith
And
and
change the law.
change your lock. And don't give him none of the keys. Call a locksmith. So when he goes there wiggling his key tomorrow to try and get in, he ain't gonna get in because you've changed your locks.
Let me give you a prime example why that's so important, what you said. There are many people who bought cars, right? And cars get sold the right way, legal. But after a while, the cars go missing. And there's no broken glass, no
broken
nothing.
glass.
It's because...
The person kept a key.
And they... Okay.
And you let the person drop the car off to your house so they know exactly the company car.
Just switch it up, eh?
Yeah. So that happens, unfortunately, but definitely for a landlord and tenant, landlords, you ought not be keeping keys to the tenant's place. Tenants, you have a right to exclusive access. Your landlord has no right to come into your place. However, if repairs need to be done or an inspection needs to be done, the landlord must give you notice. You have a right to notice. The landlord can't show up at 5:30 when you reach home. Hi, I'm here to do an inspection. No, you're not. Tomorrow, and we could arrange a convenient time for both of us.
When I'm on lunch break or when I'm going to be home at my time.
Right.
Because remember now, like you said, I ran this. Okay, I ran the place, so you can't just come demand me because you're the landlord and you feel you're going to get somebody to come.
Yeah, this is my home.
That's right.
That I'm paying you for on a month-to-month basis. And from day one with the agreement, if the agreement was silent and didn't mention inspections and repairs, then the law says it's something that I hate to use the legal jargon, but it's called an implied term.
Implied term.
So when you have a written agreement in law, we call it the express terms.
Express.
And if there's something that isn't written there and expressly stated in every area of law, especially contract law, there are certain things that are implied. And it's implied for us in landlord and tenant law that even if that contract doesn't speak to you doing an inspection, you can do an inspection because you're the landlord, you have a right, but it must be by reasonable notice.
Okay.
And even if the tenant says, let's do the inspection Friday at 5:30, I'll be home at 5:30, and the tenant being disgusting doesn't come home at 5:30, the landlord has no, all right, we can agree to another time. All right, but
Okay.
it has to be with notice to the tenant. You just can't walk into someone's place. Now, let's say you have a duplex or a triplex, and one tenant calls the landlord to say, hey, the place flooding or the place is on fire. I'm smelling smoke. And the landlord is trying to reach you, Scrooge. You're the tenant there, and the landlord can't reach you, get to the place. Sure enough, they see smoke. Then in that situation, the law will allow for the landlord to go in because that's an emergency. The place is on fire.
Yes, yes.
All right? If there's water pouring out of the place because someone left the tap on, then in law, what we would say is and it's arguable, while some may say it'll be reasonable for the landlord to go in and see what the issue is, I would argue, no, simply turn the water supply off
outside. Yes, makes
you
sense.
don't need to enter
Because you
this
don't need to
person's
enter.
house. Just turn the water supply off
Makes
outside.
sense.
That shuts down everything until you can reach your tenant who you know comes home every single day. You just have your plumber lined up, try reaching this person, but there's no reason for you to go in for water flowing out of their home. Simply turn off the water supply.
Because sometimes things could go missing, and sometimes it might not go missing, but people would exaggerate just because you go inside and say some things go missing.
Yeah, landlords have entered into someone's property who claimed that they had thousands of dollars inside their house.
Yes.
And another neighbor saw the landlord go in, and they brought the action that you must have stolen my money.
Yes.
And you only could be you. You went into the place.
Because I could come up with my strategy now.
Right, and there's no guarantee that person had more than $5 in their house.
And that's the truth.
So why get yourself in trouble going to people's
Because
place?
we could figure, give us time, we could figure some kind of scheme to come up with.
Yes. So stay your butt outside people's place. You know, rent that, stay out. All right. So the tenant also has a right to live in a rodent-free premise, and that is subject to no fault of their own now. So when you as the landlord rent a place to someone, make sure that you have had it exterminated. If you've seen roaches when you are prepping to go out, get the exterminator because the tenant has a right to live in a rodent-free premise. Now, let's say the tenant's been living in there for 2-3 years, and now the roach start popping up. Then only you being in there, Scrooge.
Yeah, that's
Why
right.
you calling the landlord?
It's on me. It's on
Right,
me.
that's
It's
for
on
you.
me. That's right.
All right, so we got to be reasonable and realistic.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Be reasonable
yes,
and
it's
realistic.
talking
Then another
about.
thing is the tenant is entitled, as I alluded to earlier, to utility and service supplies being in place. I've had persons who say that the landlord and them are having a dispute because they're trying to get cable to the place. And cable is saying, but you don't have for us to put cable TV and internet for you. You need to run those lines. That is not for the tenant to run those lines. The landlord should have had those lines in place. Cable Bahamas can charge that tenant about $200 and some to put the lines in. That's not the tenant's expense. That's the landlord's place. When those lines go in, they benefit the landlord.
And you talk about the fact that it has to be a place where the tenant is comfortable.
Yes.
So-
And I would argue too that the same way water and light is a necessity,
It should be cable.
so is cable and electricity in this day and age.
Yeah, it should be.
Especially
It
since
should be a
COVID, we saw the
requirement.
importance of having internet access for children with learning, etc.
Yes.
So I would argue that having internet lines in place is a necessity, just
Yes.
as it is to have water, sewage, and light.
Yes.
All right. Another thing for tenants is the repairs covenant. You have a right to indicate to your landlord, Mr. Landlord, that the roof is leaking. I'm hearing sparking from the electrical box. And because of that repairs covenant, or that right you have, if you notify the landlord on Monday, and the landlord says he's coming Tuesday, he doesn't come on Tuesday, call the landlord again. Notify the landlord. Our conversation yesterday, when I had indicated to you that I'm hearing sparking from the meter box, the electrical box, please have this repaired by tomorrow. Let's say tomorrow is Wednesday. Failing which, I will have an electrician come by, repair it. I will pay the electrician from your rent though. So when rent due on the 1st, you'll be getting your rent less whatever the electrician charge.
And you would present the bill for the electrician.
Bill to the landlord.
That makes sense.
And you are protected by law in doing that. Once you've given the landlord notice, and the
Yes.
landlord has failed to do it, make sure you've documented it in writing.
Okay, so like you said, we get a little leak in the roof, right? And I sent in a letter to the landlord stating that, it's a leak. I would like to see if you get a repair Tuesday. If you could come repair Tuesday. If I don't get a response, I'd put in writing. If I don't get it, or if you don't repair time, it's Tuesday. I would look and find a private contractor
Yes.
to come in. I'll check on the quote, the price of it.
Advise, notify the landlord, this can cost $300 to get done. This is your last chance. Nope. Get done tomorrow. When rent due on the end of the month for $1,000, I'll be giving you $700 plus this receipt showing I paid someone $300.
Okay, as long as I ain't damaging myself.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I'll say that, Scrooge. When you think of a window that your kids damage, you shouldn't even be calling the
the
landlord.
landlord, that's something you should do yourself.
Right. The screen, that's something
It goes.
You built-
This is fairness now.
Yeah, yeah.
This is fairness because I ran into you in perfect, livable condition.
Right.
So there's no reason you need to call me if the window gets cracked. That's
Right, but the reason why I use the electrical for example is because the electrical was done when you built this place.
Yes.
I have no interference with the electrical when I'm living here. So all I'm doing is plugging stuff into the wall.
Yes.
So if I hear the sparking coming from the electrical box,
yes.
that's on the landlord.
Yes. You're
See,
correct.
if I break the switch where I plug in my cords, those little plates which cost $1 or less, that's on you as a tenant.
yeah. Because the
All
children
right?
go there and
Right.
sometime crack it. Yeah.
Sometimes you put
Make
your
good
chair up
sense.
against it and it breaks
Make-
these things.
make
That's
good
on the
sense.
tenant.
Make
But
good
when you hit
sense.
an electrical box, for example, that's on the landlord.
Wow.
So you give the landlord, this is an emergency. This isn't something you could wait for a month. I could be sleeping or out to work and this place catches a fire. We need to move quickly. And if you don't come in XYZ period of time, I've given you notice and asked you for and right, which is something I'm entitled to, then I'll have it repaired
Wow.
at your expense.
Awesome.
All right. So with that right that a tenant has, a tenant also has responsibilities, folks. And the landlord his rent or her rent in full and on time. That's one of your responsibilities in this relationship. Pay the rent in full, on time. All right. Maintain the premises and fixtures in good repair. Don't cause a nuisance to other tenants, neighbors, or the landlord. So I gave that example of I pull up to run in the house and I decide I'm blasting this new reggae song I like, and the landlord don't like it. I'm causing a nuisance technically.
Yes.
And don't let the song have profanity.
Yeah, because we have other residents live there as
Right.
well.
So I'm causing a nuisance not just to the landlord, to other tenants and the neighbors.
being rude, just being rude.
So you have a responsibility, tenants, not to be someone causing a nuisance.
Okay.
You or your kids or your guests shouldn't be causing a nuisance, all right? And that's to the landlord, to the other tenants, or even the neighbors.
Right. So that means if one or two people complain to the landlord to tell a tenant that turn down the music, it's 12 o'clock in our
Right,
place,
right,
and you
right.
continue to do this, and we have to get together and send a letter.
And the landlord is right to give you a letter.
Yes,
They
yes.
say your
Just like you
notice.
say, you have to
They
live,
say your notice,
even
for
though
sure. Even though the place is in good condition.
you
You've caused a
get,
nuisance, we ain't got time for this.
you get your first and last after you vacate. Just okay.
You get your security deposit.
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
spend that last
yeah,
one.
the security
I
deposit.
keep that first and last. That's spent.
Excuse me.
That
the security
money
deposit.
gone, Bishop say.
It makes sense. It makes
right.
sense because you're a nuisance. You're just
Right.
trying to be a rude, bad tenant.
Yes. So one of the other things, responsibilities tenants have, and I think tenants in this country fail to appreciate, is that you have a responsibility to address any damages that you and your guests have caused to the home. So the kids break the toilet
Right.
and the water running.
I
And you're
bet.
sitting there in this place for weeks
Weeks.
on weeks, months on months with the water running up a water bill.
Yes.
You have a responsibility to fix that, and if you don't fix that, and that landlord's water bill comes
$1,000
$1,000
for
for
that
that period when it's normally $150,
50?
they're right to come to court and sue you for the difference.
And just like you're saying, what about the light? I'm a tenant, and I decide I want this big 40-inch AC.
Because light included.
And light included.
And you're burning
and you're
all
burning
day,
AC,
every day.
yeah.
So I've seen landlords agreements that indicate that light is included up to $250, for instance. So there are people who would just read the agreement that says light is included, so they feel they can go to work and leave the AC because when they come home, they TV on all night because they're in pain. But see, it's $250. Here's your bill. You owe $150. That's going to be added on to the rent for this month.
So that's why it's important to make sure, as a tenant, to have your meter with your name on it.
Yes.
Yes.
There are so many persons in this country, Scrooge, that are sharing a meter with the landlord, which is something I never advise.
No.
Or sharing a meter with other tenants. It
No,
makes
you can rob
sense.
yourself.
Yes.
Or you can rob yourself.
You only get yourself in trouble.
Yes.
All right, so that's a summary of it. Just to recap quickly before all of you call in, if you have any questions with your scenarios, is that your lease / rental agreement is one and the same. So if you hear someone saying they have a lease and another co-worker or friend saying I have a rental agreement, it's the same thing. It's just interchangeable. It simply means a contract where you occupy someone's place for a certain period of time and you pay them a certain period of money in rent on a certain date. The misconceptions, I'm going to run through all of them again. I'm not going to, but simply I would say decency in order as a landlord and tenant. That tenant is a customer of yours. You're in a relationship. It's a business relationship.
Yes.
And tenant, if you are renting someone's place, like Scrooge said when we open, someone has invested money to acquire this property, to get it to the standard it is to rent to you. This is their life savings, and they're depending on that money to take care of themselves and their family and their expenses every month. Pay your rent on time. It's nonsense.
I'm getting mad.
Yeah, you'll get evicted. And landlords, you have no right to go into somebody's place. Once you rent that, that is theirs. If they don't pay you rent, you don't get to change locks and put them out. The only way to evict a tenant who doesn't want to leave is by court order. Landlords in this country have the view that, hey, if you don't pay rent, you're getting on my nerve. I could just change locks, put your stuff outside, and give you back your money. No,
And that's very dangerous.
The only way you can force somebody out is by a court order, and the court order will be signed by a magistrate, in which the magistrate authorizes the police, the nearest station to that residence, to come and put that tenant out.
That's the right way to go about it.
That's the right way to go about it, all right? Wow. So I hope that helps, Scrooge. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
That helps a lot. Again, telephone numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, and 325-4259. You could call and ask any question of any of the above that Mr. Henfield has just given you. It's a great conversation, very educational, and I've learned a lot here today, even though I knew some of the things, but tell you the truth, I didn't know all of the stuff, and it's good for you out there who are listening, who are renting, and you out there who are landlord. This is good information. Your phone doesn't light up. We're going to take this call on Inside the Inner City. Go ahead, caller.
Hello.
Good night.
Good evening.
Good evening. What I'd like to know, as far as with the landlord and the keys, I don't think the landlord should go in the apartment or where they're renting, whenever they feel like. But I feel like the landlord should have a key in case there's like a fire. If the tenant changed the lock, how the landlord supposed to deal with that situation?
The landlord should not be going inside a tenant's place.
Right.
So when you say in case of, call your tenant. If it's a fire, I gave the example where that's an emergency situation. The landlord should call the fire department, call the tenant while entering the place. If it's a fire.
But suppose you can't reach the tenant.
That's what I'm saying. If it's a fire, you reach out to the fire department, you try and contact the tenant first and the fire department, and then you could enter into the place, because that's an emergency. A fire, it could burn down, and somebody else could be in the building, or you'd lose your entire structure. But you should not have a key. So to tell you hold a key in the event there is a fire, I can't advise anybody that you should not have a key to someone's place.
As far as I know, all landlords normally have a key.
I'm a landlord. I don't have a key for any of my tenants' places.
Well,
I have my law firm is rented in a place. My landlord doesn't have a key for that place.
right. Well, I don't think the business.
No,
Well,
a home is worse.
So,
A home is worse than a
rental.
business.
Like I say, they have the agency.
No.
I don't think they have the key just to be going into people's apartments.
Well, you may be, and let's say you're a landlord. There are people who are good people, but there are some people in this
People who are
country
bad
who
people.
are perverts, who are pedophiles, who are rapists, who are thieves. And I'm not calling anyone's name. Nobody that rents a place to a tenant should have a key to their place. Nobody. I'm not going to make any exceptions for it. Nobody should have a key to a tenant's place. That's that person's home. They are entitled to quiet enjoyment by law and exclusive possession. No landlord should be entering that place and have a key. If the tenant decides, I want you to keep a key, that's a different story. But that's up to the tenant. It's at the tenant's discretion if they want a landlord to have a key. But the landlord has no right to keep a key to someone's place.
Wow.
People are walking around their homes naked. People are sleeping half naked. People are, deep sleepers. Anything could be happening to them. It's not safe. People have kids. It shouldn't be happening.
Wow. And I understand where the call is coming from. She's saying just in case there's a fire, and you give a clear example. Call the fire station, and if not, then use force what is necessary. That's what you reply.
Yes.
But you stated again, There are good landlords
Yes.
but then you have people who abuse their power and are
Yes.
perverts and rapists,
Yes,
and you know
yes.
who you're renting from. So it goes two ways. You know, we're talking about the tenants on one side saying be good, and we're talking to the landlord to be good. You
Yes.
know, so I understand.
I've sat in court, Mr. Brown / Scrooge,
Right.
where I could picture it. The landlord had to be in his 60s, and the tenant with her daughter, she had to be in her late 20s, and he sought to evict her because he said, hadn't paid rent. And when she got to speak, she's unrepresented. He had a lawyer. When she got to speak, she said, Your Worship, I had to save the money to look for a place because I can't stay there. The man keeps coming into the place when I'm in the shower. My child is screaming, the landlord, Mommy, the man. Take his key and just walks in when she's in the shower.
Yeah.
And when she runs him out of the place,
Problem with him.
You know, he went, this is my place. I was coming in to check stuff, my hair, the water running. The woman's like, I'm bathing. And you see my child in the front room.
Yeah,
what
someone-
are you doing? You know,
We abuse our power.
The landlord the magistrate came to determination in that case that she didn't have to pay rent because by his wrongful entry.
Entry.
He had disturbed her
Privacy
peaceful
and
enjoyment,
the contract
her
they signed.
exclusive control. He forcefully
Put
ended the
unfair.
contract. Right, so she didn't have to pay the rent.
And Mr. Enfield, are you saying that we have a lot of landlords like that who do this, even though the land is your own, the building is your own, the tenant still have rights?
Right, you've entered into a legal contract to say to this person, I am giving you this for you to live safely without being harassed sexually, physically, verbally. Go ahead and live there. You should be safe. And then the person who's the worst culprit turns out to be the landlord. You can't have that. So I can't make any exceptions but for fire. If there's a fire, you don't need a key, force yourself in. Call the tenant, leave the voicemail, break the door down then.
Because you're a professional lawyer and you're given the best advice you can, and you had many cases like this before the courts, and you've seen it on a regular basis as clients come to you, and you'll be sitting down in court doing other cases, and you're hearing similar matters
Yes.
about these particular behaviors.
Yes.
We get a next caller on the line. So caller, you're on Inside the Inner City on Guardian Radio 96.9. We got Mr. Henfield in studios giving us some valuable information.
Good afternoon.
Hey,
Good afternoon to you,
afternoon.
sir.
I have one question. Can a landlord raise his rent while you're living in the apartment and he hasn't done any major or any sort of addition or repairs to the apartment at all?
Yes,
And question number two, is it the landlord's responsibility to replenish your home if termites? I'll just hang up and listen.
all right. So to your first question, every landlord has a right via an implied term, even though it's not expressly written in the agreement that the landlord says, I will increase my rent by 10 to 20% every year or every 3 years. It's an implied term that a landlord has a right to increase their rent. Does the landlord have to do any additional repairs to the property to be able to do so? No. The landlord could simply notify you if you have a lease for a year / rental agreement for a year, then what the law looks for is reasonable notice that he was going to increase the rent. So the landlord can't come within the first year when you've already rented the place at $1,000 and say to you 3 months in, I'm increasing the rent, or 5 months in.
That's a no-no.
But they can come 3 months before the lease
Ends 3 months before the lease ends. Now
and
1 year contract.
and notify you not that rent's going to increase on month 10 or month 11, but on the annual increase. All right, and rent, what is acceptable in law is an increase anywhere from around 10 to 20% on the rent would be reasonable. But a landlord cannot come during that term and increase the rent. He
That's a
can't
no-no.
come on the 15th of the month when you've moved into a month-to-month tenancy and say to you on the 15th, hey, come on the 1st of the month, the rent ain't $1,000 more, it could be $1,150. He can't do it. He would have to give you 3 months notice in law. That seems reasonable in law.
Give you plenty of time.
Second question was with the termites. You've rented a place to somebody and termites are now eating their furniture. Is the landlord responsible? The landlord is not responsible
Because
if
the
termite, if the termite was not in the premises prior to this tenant moving in. Tenants could have brought furniture that had termite in it. All right. So if it is that when the person moved into your place, the tenant, and they pointed out to you, you have termites, and you didn't
Do not. Okay.
eradicate that, and then the termite eventually eats their furniture, yes, you're liable.
Okay.
But if this tenant's been there for 2-3 years, and now the tenant has a termite problem, and the tenant didn't bring it to your attention for you to mitigate, rectify this issue before, nor did the tenant decide to go and rectify it themselves and take that money out of the rent, then the tenants could bring the case all they want. I always try to say to persons, you can't stop anybody from suing you, but you can stop them from winning. Now, while they may want to sue the landlord to repair or replace their furniture, they're unlikely to win that case unless at the time they moved in, there were tenants, or they notice tenants a year or so later, notify you as a landlord in writing, you refuse to address it, and then the termites destroy their furniture. So the landlord would have had to have notice of termite, had an opportunity to rectify it, and failed to do so. Then that person is likely to have a good case. But every case isn't as simple as the way you put it, caller. There's more to the story we find in law. So I would say to you, generally, if it is that the landlord had a termite problem before, didn't correct it, yes, they'll have to repair or replace that. If the landlord was advised while the tenant was there that, hey, we have a termite problem, we're discovering it now, rectify it, and the landlord refuses, and the tenant then had an obligation and a right to go and address the issue, and they refused, then it's unlikely the landlord would, at the end of the day, have to pay. Or if he were to pay in that scenario, the court will still say you didn't mitigate your lost tenant because you could have had the place sprayed 2 years ago and you didn't. All right?
Wow, very, very good information. Mr. Enfield, I want to get a little profile on you because you're such an intelligent, and you're very knowledgeable, and you work hard as a lawyer. Some of the fields that you work in besides doing the landlord and tenants part of your law
practice.
Your law practice.
Okay. So this year, believe it or not, makes 20 years of me being an attorney. I was called to the bar back in 2003 in England and here in the Bahamas. At the time, one of the reasons why I do these sessions, and I do these sessions every month via my Facebook page, these free sessions, and most times I do 3 to 4 different areas of law when I do the sessions. But I do these sessions, and I've heard persons say, oh, you're doing some good service, or it's very nice of you. I don't find it very nice of me to do any good service. The truth of the matter is, someone did this for me, for me to get where I am today. Someone took the time to teach and explain to me at no cost to me. So I think it's the least I could do
to give
moving
those
forward. Someone did it for me.
Because you can see the phone is,
Yeah.
people are calling,
Right.
and then there are a lot of people who are listening online and on air, listening to what you have to say.
Right.
Go ahead.
So I do it every month. I've been doing it every month now. I think this is my 4th year of doing it once a month on my Facebook page. But I do, in addition to landlord and tenant law, some of you listening may know me from court, the civil court. I have been the litigation attorney for several of the lending institutions in the country, like Commonwealth Bank, Scotiabank, First Caribbean, etc. I do criminal law as well, criminal defense. I do conveyancing, child support cases, divorce cases, legal separation, and emergency protection orders, maintenance pending suit orders, traffic matters as well. I do company law, and generally banking law as well.
Wow, just outstanding, and you keep on climbing the ladder. Just a number of people can reach out if they really want, or some way of contact they could reach you, because this is very good, and there's a lot of people probably want to get in contact with you. Right?
So I'm not one of the lawyers who will tell you wait until my office to call. I have a page which is just Renard Eric Henfield on Facebook. And one of the good things is the videos are up of other sessions I've done explaining the laws in detail, where we've had more time to go through them and more in depth. You can view those videos there at Renard Eric Henfield on Facebook. My website is learnedfriends.biz, which is LEARNED, friends, FRIENDS.biz. And then the number at the office is 603-2326. And then I have a WhatsApp number for clients. If you want to send a message on WhatsApp, it's 801-1979. All right.
So we need some representation, some information, and you need a good lawyer who knows about all those fields. You can contact those numbers he gave you, or you could WhatsApp, etc., Facebook. He gave you the whole full 9 yards just now, and this is good for you because you might not have this information. Now you have a chance to connect with somebody who is a professional, who has access to the court system, knows the court system, and knows how to have a fair outing with the judge. We're going to take this call on Inside the City. Go ahead, caller.
Evening. I have a question.
Go ahead, ma'am. You got such a beautiful voice.
So, I have a tenant, and the tenant has not paid from April 1st. I would have given the tenant a notice for 3 months prior to let them know that I will not be renewing the lease for the upcoming lease agreement. So they have not paid for April. What I did was I told them that I would allow them to use their last month's rent for the month of May and told them that they have to be out by June. Now, April has not been paid as yet. So I don't know where to go from there.
Wow.
All right. So first of all, you're not letting anybody use up their last month rent.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I said, first of all, you're not letting somebody use their last month rent. Everybody's entitled to their last month rent being applied. Secondly, when you said you gave them notice 3 months ago, April's rent, which then suggests to me they paid March rent?
Yeah,
Correct?
they paid March. So
And you had
March was the month that I would have given them the
Okay, so
notice
after
to
they-
let them know.
After they paid rent, you gave them notice, or you gave them notice before they paid the rent?
I gave them the notice before they paid the
All
rent.
right. So once you collected rent and accepted rent from somebody that you gave notice to vacate, technically you've basically said, I'm continuing to have a rental relationship with you. So what you need to go do is renew your eviction notice. When you serve that notice on them, you also need to file a summons in magistrate court. A summons, you don't need a lawyer for this. You can go to magistrate court, put your name as the plaintiff, your tenant as the defendant. Then it's going to have a section called particulars of claim. Simply say the plaintiff at all material times was the landlord of XYZ place. Paragraph 2, the defendant.
Mom, you have a pen?
The defendant was at all material times a tenant of the landlord on XYZ date, which will be May 20th tomorrow or May 22nd next week. The landlord gave the tenant notice to vacate personally by hand, as the tenant had not paid rent for the month of April. The tenant is now using last month rent for April, thus is in arrears, and the landlord wants the tenant out. Okay? You file that summons, serve that tenant at court. There are police officers at court that can serve it for you, or if you know a police officer that's a friend of yours, you can let that police officer serve the summons. Make sure they file an affidavit of service stating when and where they serve your tenant, the time, describing that tenant physical appearance, and the place that they serve the tenant. Have that affidavit of service notarized by a JP or a lawyer, photocopy it, and return the original to court. You'll pay another $2 or $3 fees. In total, it should cost you $5 to do your case.
$5 to do a case.
$5.
Wow.
If you hire us as a lawyer, I can tell you we start at $4.50.
You listen to that? So mom is getting a real break. So this is for you. So I hope you got your pen, and you could probably hit him up on Facebook too. Also,
Yeah, I did already, so I will continue to message, but
Okay.
but I got the gist of what you're
Okay.
saying.
Okay, good.
So thank you so much.
All right.
But thank you. The information is very insightful because I wanted to know what steps I needed to take next.
Okay, all the best.
yes.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Our host on Guiding Radio, it's my job to bring professionals like Mr. Henfield to be able to assist the general public. So I want to say thanks to you for listening. Now you got some valuable information on how to deal with your situation concerning your tenant. You know, we're gonna the producer now, Carmen, is playing the music, so we're gonna take a break. So don't go nowhere. I'll be right back after the break on Guiding Radio 96.9 FM.
I represent billion people. I from Nassau, Bahamas, big up Bintan, bro. Boy, I from Bintan, bro. Right between West and Augusta, where them two roads meet, they call it Wilkinson Street. Manners and respect was like a sign blank check. It seems the ones that coming after quick to disrespect. You see, this life in the ghetto never easy.
When faced with an illness like cancer, we band together, and we at Cleveland Clinic in Florida have your back. From advanced cancer treatments to extra safety measures at all of our locations, we're with you on this journey. For every infusion and follow-up, for every step of the way. We're at Cleveland Clinic in Florida. Get the care you need when and where you need it. To learn more or connect with a local representative, visit clevelandclinic.org/Caribbean.
Hey, Tina, how you get working here? And I ain't see you since COVID. I finished the BTVI Smart Start program and this mechanic shop hired me. Smart Start? Yeah, if you didn't finish high school when the pandemic was going on, you could sign up for auto mechanics, beauty, fashion, or construction. It's only 12 weeks and you get to do an internship. Too bad I ain't have no money. Girl, Smart Start is free. Free? I might as well go do hair. Listen, don't count yourself out. Email smartstart@btvi.edu.bs or call 502-6300 today.
People, what you thinking? We want something different. People, what you wanting? We want local government. I can tell them no more slunking. We want to see it function. I can tell them no more joke. I forgot. Going down Blue Hill Road, going down Village Road, going down Nassau Road. We want local government. We want local government. Mr. Road, we want local government. Shed of love, we want local government. We got call for local government. Sign the petition and find out more information at risebahamas.net.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Good night, we're back on Guardian Radio 96.9. I'm your host, Valentino Brown, host of the talk show Inside It every Friday at what time it is? I can't even remember. 6:30 to 8 o'clock. The show is so interesting. And my special guest is Mr. Henfield, a professional lawyer. He goes online every month and he gives free lecture on many of the fields that he's taken up as a lawyer. The phone lines are lighting up, so I don't want to keep no one waiting. They want to have a lot of questions for you, Mr. Enfield. So go ahead, caller. You're on Inside the Inner City on this wonderful Friday evening. Night. Go ahead, caller.
Good evening.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Henfield, how are you?
We're fine,
How are
ma'am.
you?
Excellent, thank you. Quick question. I have a residence that I'm thinking on converting a portion for rental income.
Mm-hmm.
It's a single-family dwelling at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, by law,
Mm-hmm.
decide that there's only a portion of my yard or premises that the tenant can access?
Yes, you can.
Yes, separated.
I can.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can
So
separate.
I can go ahead and I can put a fence up, wall, gate to say you cannot cross over this portion. If you have guests come to you, this is where they are restricted to. Parking spot, your guest does not rightfully have parking spot. The rest of it is for
Yes, you can.
You
myself
and your family.
Yes.
and my family.
Yes.
Yes. So, as a landlord-tenant relationship, yes, you can do that. That's fine. This is a private contract. You're allowing somebody to rent. What I would say to you, though, is on the public side, the government, as you may know, is going hard after persons in the short-term rental industry. So if it is that you are going to use it as a short-term rental, I would say to you, register with the Department of Inland Revenue that you're doing that, and they're going to shoot you an email within 2 to 3 weeks of you registering, authorizing you to go ahead and use that as a short-term rental. If you are using it as a month-to-month rental, not short-term, month-to-month, the regular rental we normally do as Bahamians, then
Right.
you don't need to register with Inland Revenue for the purpose of getting a short-term rental approval. But you would still need to notify a department in Inland Revenue that you are turning a residential property now into an income-producing premises, all right, which will then impact on your real property tax assessment, okay?
Oh,
All right. So I would fully encourage you to go ahead and do the rentals. It's a great second source of income. I can assure you there are persons in this country making tens of thousands of dollars to supplement their income of rentals. So go right ahead. Just do it properly, okay?
With it being my first time, then your advice, what would be your suggestion? Should I start off with a short term, or do I go with the month to month as we know it in our culture?
It really depends on I'm going to phrase it this way, the amount of money you want to make and the headache you want. If you go with a month-to-month rental for what you may turn into an efficiency, let's say you charge somebody $550 for the month to be there. If you go with the Airbnb, the average Airbnb in New Providence is going at $100 per night. And persons will come in, they want to spend 2 or 3 nights coming from the family islands, or someone from the family islands wants to come and have a baby. They're going to stay for 3 months, and then you can charge a monthly rate of up to $2,000 a month. So the only difference with a month-to-month, you ain't ever got to go in there and clean up after nobody. But a short term, every time your guests leave, you got to go in there and clean it up and get it ready for somebody else.
Get it sanitized and all that.
In addition to you charging them that $100 a night, you're also charging them a cleaning fee.
Okay.
All right, so they're going to pay you to clean up after they leave. So you're going to get the $200 for the 2 nights they spend, and then the $50 or $75 fee for you to clean up. So if you're looking for a source of income as we age, I'm 43, turning 50 soon. I think it's a great way to supplement your income for your family. If you go to the month-to-month rental, obviously it's less rent that you'd be getting. If you go to the short term, it's a bigger investment up front because now you got to put in the little living budget. All persons coming into an Airbnb want is a TV and internet.
That's all they want.
They don't care for all the decor and decorations and the big fridge and stuff. They ain't cooking nothing, but they want internet and a television, all right?
Wow.
So you really got to sit down with your family or, I guess by yourself and brainstorm on, what kind of turnover do I want and what kind of headache do I want? Because I know persons who are doing one-night stays at Airbnbs and doing like 6 bookings a week, but they've quit their jobs at hotels and they're doing their own boss.
They're living good now because that's a lot of money.
So that's like $900, $600 rental plus the $50 cleaning fee every day. They're making $900. So it's something to consider. Caller.
Thank you. Final question, Mr. Henfield.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it your best advice to always operate under a lease?
I wouldn't.
A rental agreement?
Ma'am, do not rent to nobody without a rental agreement. If the disciples come, tell the disciples, I know who you get. I know your people. But I need you to sign. I need you to sign this. Always do a rental agreement, okay? Yes. You don't need a lawyer to do a rental agreement. You can go on the internet and Google rental agreements, and I've shared the basics that you need to have.
Wow.
What the tenant must do, the notice period. Those are things you can do on your own. So I'm the attorney that tells you not everything you need to run to an attorney for and pay us for. Like I said to the caller before you, $5 she can do her case. So if she comes to our law firm, it's going to cost her $450. So you could do a rental agreement on your own, but definitely, regardless of which disciple come, do your rental agreement, all right?
Thank you. Thank you. Your information is always insightful. Have a good evening, gentlemen.
Okay, you too, Mom.
Take care.
Yes, and a lot of people, they want to guide them in the right direction. This is very good. Okay, caller. We have a next caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on Inside Inner City. Mr. Hanfield is waiting to answer your question. Go ahead, caller. I guess they left. Call if you want to call back and get some wonderful information. You can. Again, the telephone numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, and you can text us. Powered by BTC at 422-GR96, and you can listen why Guardian 969 Cable Bahamas. And Mr. Henfield is giving us some wonderful information. There are many people who call in, they are asking questions, and you're giving them solutions. You're advising them. I mean, you're a landlord, so you have the experience in that. You're a lawyer, but the way you give that information, you came from the court perspective, you came from the tenant perspective, and you came from the landowner perspective, and you were also encouraging them what they can and what they should do, and also telling them, brainstorm with your family, and the lady that she called just now, and she was trying to, make a separation from her property. She want to put up a little fence, and then she want to tenant to stay aside. She give them a parking space, and like you told her, sign that lease agreement.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can do what you want.
Yeah, I will share while you wait for your next callers. For us in law, we use something called LexisNexis, a paid subscription for us to get right at this moment, right now, every case that was decided around the world today. So we pay thousands of dollars every single law firm or every lawyer to have access to that. So
Yes,
we
sir.
know what's happening, what's current with the law today. So when you see us in court or you hear us in court, you will hear us referring the judge to the case that was decided in London yesterday.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Or
So-
a case in Australia
Yes,
the week before.
yes.
Because we go by precedent. And one of the things I would share with all you listening today is the eviction. There's a case that we find very relevant in our profession. It's a case called Grange versus Quinn, and it started back in 2023. And the gist of it was that the court decided that a landlord who intends to evict a tenant must ensure that he or she follows the correct procedure.
Procedures.
And a failure to serve the correct notice is likely to make an eviction illegal. So that case may have had for us to read 34 pages to read.
34.
The one line that was relevant for us and those of us who practice landlord and tenant law is that we'll quote to the judge, we'd like to remind the court of the case of Grange versus Quinn. And in that case, the judge or the Court of Appeal would have decided and determined and established in this area of law that when a landlord wants to evict a tenant, they must follow the correct procedure. And I think in that case, as with any other case, the person's rent was due on a certain day of the month. Let's say the rent was due on the first of the month, and the landlord got mad with that tenant and decided on the 15th, I want you out. This is your last month.
I'm getting physical. Some get physical.
Right, but technically, the person the 30-day notice.
Yes.
You came on the 15th of the month, which means they had 15 more days in the
I
month.
just want you. I don't care. I just want you out.
So the court would basically determine that no, technically your notice on that day could only be for the following month.
Yes.
It couldn't have been for that month. So the eviction was illegal. And when the court finds that your eviction is illegal, like in this case, the landlord had to pay about £9,000 because this person was renting the place for a business. And now because you're evicting them, they're going to lose money when
Yes,
they close
their
their
revenue.
business. So when you, as a landlord, are making decisions, reach out to an attorney to ask a question to make sure what you're about to do, you're doing it right, because you may find yourself coming
Doing
to
it
court.
wrong.
And
you think you doing it right, but you broke the law.
I've been in cases where I represent the quote unquote defendant, the person being sued, and like this week, won the case for the defendant, and then the court ordering the plaintiff, the person that was suing, to pay the person they were trying to sue court costs of $1,000 for me being in court for 1 hour. You just wasted our time. We told you from when you served the documents, you can't win this case. Withdraw it. You didn't. You've come to court, and in 1 hour the case is over. But you're going to be paying $1,000 because you did this thing wrong. So it can't hurt to just ring up a lawyer and ask, "Hi, I will run a quick question by you, a scenario by you. Could you explain am I on the right path?" And do it before you file your case.
Wow.
Do it before you file the case. So then you can go down to the court, pay a little. Say a little. I like to say little, but little don't change that the meme says, right? But pay a little $2 to file your summons. Pay the $3 to file the after service, and it costs you $5. But just reach out to a lawyer first to find out, am I going about this the right way?
Yeah, I know you just expect $5 to do this. If you
Or
come to me, or
$4.50.
now listen, that's not $4.50, $450. Now listen, we talking about $5 goes to $450. You know what it means? What's the profit margin in that? So what you're gonna do? You're gonna go with the $5, right? So take that advice.
And then if you lose, for you who lose the case, you may find like in that case this week, the plaintiff having to pay us $1,000 for losing.
Yeah. I love having you on, Anku Saru, because from the religious point, you're coming with the landlord. I like to have all of us are in the same field, Mr. Enfield. We take a little different direction, but all of us are in the same field because all of us are trying to do our best to educate with the Christianity. We're trying to educate with the law and how it could benefit those less fortunate, even the tenants, the landlords, and those who need information, and then I come for it from a little different angle, but we all doing the same thing. We want to educate, we want a better Bahamas, and we want a peaceful Bahamas. The reason why I wanted Mr. Hanfield on the show today is because for a long time in the country, I've observed landlords overstepping their jurisdiction. And then I watch tenants who would do things like two persons in the apartment. They have 6, 7, and they damage the landlord's apartment.
The amount of water they're using is in factor. And you see when a landlord rents you a place for 2, and
He
says
knows.
your rent is $750, he's already budgeting for a certain amount of water
Right.
bill or light bill. When you now add 6 persons, that's 4 set of people bathing twice a day. That's more water. That's more flushing of the toilets. That's more electricity being burned. It's more wear and tear, slamming, opening, closing doors. It's more wear and tear on the place.
Yeah, because I noticed this. My light bill, Manny, she helps me out with a lot of stuff. She's just like my mother. My light bill would normally be like $35, and I end up letting a young lady stay with me because she didn't have no place to stay, right, for about 6 or 7 months. Wow. And my light bill gone from $35 to actually $95 to $100.
Wow, 3 times, eh?
You understand?
Just
Just
one
because
person.
they're using the
Just
water.
one
Yeah, I
person.
noticed that.
One additional person.
So that one additional person puts screen because I could be saying as a landowner, well, listen, this is a 1 bedroom. I know the light bill is not more than probably $50.
Right, so I can still make a profit if I'm charging you X, Y,
Right.
Z. But when you bring in 6 and 7 people, all the rent I'm collecting from you is going to BPL.
That's right. So I might have
People
to.
like that, you live, you're free.
So
Because I ain't making nothing.
it makes such good sense, And like I say, to each and every one of you out there, I hope you're enjoying the show. If there's questions you need to be asked, you can call in. And if you want to further get more information, Mr. Enfield, could you give us your
Yes, so
numbers again?
I'm on Facebook, folks, Renard Eric Henfield, and every month I would do a session. I think I have my next session on June 21st.
Facebook?
Yeah, on Facebook. It's a Facebook Live, so even if
Yes.
you miss the session, the videos stay up, so you can always watch any other area of law I've taught.
Yes, sir.
And I've been doing this, like I said, from about sometime in 2020. And I think I've touched on it. I've probably done at least 90 of these sessions so far. So you get, a good, well-rounded view on the different areas of the law. And the sole purpose of it is to teach persons the law. A lot of our rights and responsibilities are or the law. And there's so much other areas. I know when you reach out to me, Scrooge, you asked if there were any other areas I'd want to discuss, but I knew landlord and tenant itself will take up a good hour of your show.
Yes, yes.
But there are persons, as I mentioned before, who have warrants of arrest outstanding for
We like
them.
that.
And they are ducking, dodging the police on every roadblock as if a warrant of arrest for a traffic matter or a
It's a
child
criminal
support
matter.
case or a civil case is something
It's
serious.
It's not a criminal
It's
matter.
nothing serious. It's
It's a
walk
civil
into
matter.
court and say, Judge, I apologize. I missed court 10 years ago, but I paid the $50 fine.
And a lot of people
move
don't-
on with your life.
And a lot of people don't know the difference between civil case
No.
and criminal
You
case.
got that,
So
right.
I gotta help you to come and have a discussion on that. What I want you to do is when you get a chance and you feel fit, look on your schedule, and if you want to say, Scrooge, I want to come on in January or February, you just let me know and we'll have a
problem,
discussion
bro.
on this.
No problem,
You want us to take this last
Go
call?
ahead, man.
Okay, we're gonna take this last call on Inside the Inner City on this wonderful Friday. Go ahead, caller. You're on Inside the Inner City.
Good day.
Good day, good day. How you doing, sir?
Scrooge,
Yes, sir.
Valentino, Mr. Valentino Brown,
Hey.
and Mr. Henfield.
Yes, sir.
I just called to let y'all know that.
Thank
Amos
you, man.
Junior Miller here.
Thank you, man.
I
Mr.
have
Miller.
enjoyed this show. Mr. Henfield, may Yahweh Elohim Spirit bless you
That's
continually.
the original name of Christ.
You got the name.
Oh, God.
You know it.
Original
Amen.
name, yes.
Amen to that. Wise man. Thank you, man.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
that.
much. And he's such a wonderful gentleman,
Yeah,
and that
yes.
just show you that the show was very positive and very informative for many persons out there because we don't hardly have this conversation, Mr. Enfield, and it's good that you come on and you talk about the different aspects of your
practice?
your practice, your
Yeah.
law practice, and we definitely would like you to come in.
No problem.
When you have the time and you're free, you're very busy.
Well, let's do it this way. I don't like to tell people what to do
Yes.
when I do sessions. So when I do the lives, I ask persons to tell me what topics you
Okay,
they
okay,
want in.
okay,
So
we'll do
with
that.
your show, you could find out from your listeners what areas of the law they want, and then
okay.
you want to arrange it every other month or every month. You let me know.
I want to really hit on that child support for
Okay,
the
no
man
problem.
because the men are being torn apart
No
and
problem.
this, so we want
Next
to talk
time.
about
And access,
and
getting
access.
yeah.
Yes, we like to
Access.
talk about that.
Then
So
now you got the citizen issue for men too, to getting their children's citizenship.
Yes.
Getting them access to their children, and then this issue of child
okay,
support.
yes,
So no
yes,
problem.
yes. Okay, yes, because you're a professional lawyer. So again, you want to give out your numbers again?
So
for the
sure,
gentleman?
326 folks, 603-2326 is my office. And feel free, like I said, there's a WhatsApp number for the office, 801-1979. And then there's my page, Renard Eric Henfield, where you'll be able to see all the other videos. So if you're hoping I speak to something in the future, I may have already had spoken to it, and the videos are up on that page that you can watch, all right? hope I helped, and all the best. Have a good evening. Have a good weekend.
Wow, just amazing. I want to thank Mr. Henfield for taking time with his busy schedule to come on Guardian Radio. And again, it's my pleasure as a host to have him on because, like I said, I always want to try and make a difference some way, somehow. And he is one of the leaders. He's giving back also because, you know, he is a lawyer. And lawyers, you know, don't really do things for free unless they're compassionate about, you know, you understand? Very, very compassionate about their giving back. For him, as a person who come from the inner city community, this is his way of giving back. Yes. You know, this is his way of helping people fight, you know, for their rights, you know, and it also gives the how I should put it. It gives the landlord some clarification. It gives the tenant some clarification, and it also teaches about doing to others as you have others doing to you. Because I wouldn't want no one to come in my place that I just save up my whole entire retirement is, my retirement pension. And I say to myself, you know, I'm turning in 50, 60, 5 years. I save up enough. Now I'm going to invest in buying a property and build some low-cost apartments. And this is the way how I'm going to get my income coming back because, you know, I'm going to be retired now. So this is how I'm going to be able to live. Like you said earlier, I'm going to be able to pay my light bill, my cable bill at my home and be able to pay my, you know, gas bill. Exactly. And I'm dependent on my investment to be able to take care of me, you know, for the rest of my days. And I wouldn't want no one to come and damage it, you know. And at the same time, I don't want to be abusive. I don't want to wear because the place is my own. I don't want you park no car here. I don't want you bringing no woman in my place. Some of these people just don't want you bring some of the landlords don't want you bring your friends or family in their yard. They tell no, I read it to you. I don't want to see no one else come in my yard, Mr. Enfield. I forget this the part I was supposed to knock you with. Yes. You know, and talk to you about because a lot of them landlords would actually go as far as to deny access to family friends.
No, you're entitled to guess. You're entitled to guess.
You know,
it's just that they can't be living there. But you're entitled to guess. So you could have a young lady come over at 8 p.m. and stay till 2 a.m. 3 times a week. That ain't no problem. She can stay 5 days a week, but she ain't living there. You're entitled to have a guess.
Okay, and sometimes they don't lock the gate.
Yeah.
You know, so it's good that you were able to come here and clarify that, you know, and I'm sure that a lot of listeners out there, they really enjoyed the show today. I truly did. And like I said, you know, I would like to have you come in and then we'd have a discussion. But that we talked about earlier, when it comes to that child support.
Yeah, we'll do it.
We definitely have to talk about that because like I say, the guys, again, do too bad. Okay. It's more like woman has all the right. And the man just go to court and he can't even explain himself. Now, there's some no good man now, all right?
There's plenty Scrooge.
There's plenty no good man out there. But you have plenty good man out there who are really hurt and they're doing their best, but they don't stand a chance around the court. They need a good lie like Renata Henfield. So I'm encouraging person, take Mr. Henfield's number and get in contact with him. Many thanks to you for coming in. Say this away to your wife and your daughters again, man. You made me feel so good today.
Girls, I'm on my way home.
All right.
See y'all soon. Love y'all.
Y'all have a wonderful father, and he's doing great wonders for the less fortunate and giving great information to the country. And I want to say thank Mr. Enfield. And Mr. Enfield, just have a wonderful Friday, you and your family, and just enjoy the weekend. And to each and every one of you who listen to Inside the Inner City, we go out our way to bring the best qualified person who are sincere to give you the best for those particular persons. So we'll see you next week on Guardian Radio 96.9. Valentino Brown signing off. Next week. We'll see you next week Friday. Good night, everybody. Enjoy.
Call it Wilkinson Street. Manners and respect was like a sign blank check. It seems the ones that come in after quick to disrespect. You see, this life in the ghetto never easy.